teacher in the UK. After we came to Canada, I wasn't in front of a desk anymore, but I was always in the classroom as a parent helper and was highly involved in my girls' learning. What is happening now in schools with mask enforcement, social distancing, chemical cleansing, and everything that relates to the protocols in place for this virus is what parents and educators should really be questioning. What we as children read as fiction is now all our Orwellian reality. I remember my own teachers. They were fonts of knowledge. Their role as educators expanded far beyond their specialties. As a newly qualified teacher, my mentors were incredible. They taught me to question policy and procedure at every level and always do my own research. I put that into practice in my classroom. I provided my students with a safe place to learn, to share their thoughts, the tools to develop deep into all aspects of English, my chosen subject, and the confidence to question everything that didn't make sense to them. Debate in our staff meetings was fierce. Tempers often flared. But our common goal of what was in the best interests of our students demanded that we were all able to speak out freely and without fear of retribution. I can't imagine what it would be like for me to teach in a Canadian school or even an English school today. I don't honestly think I could. In the global current crisis, all balanced debate has been erased. I watched it firsthand in the care home with my mom, and I knew that come September the same thing would happen in schools. Staff and parents are fearful. This in turn translates into fearful students, just as Aaliyah was mentioning. Rules are being followed without question. A dear friend recently said to me, "I've always been a rule follower until the rules don't make sense." Teachers and healthcare professionals are at the most critical juncture ever in their careers. The choices they make today will have consequences that they cannot begin to comprehend for tomorrow. They will have to answer for those choices, choices that have and continue to impact the most vulnerable like no other profession. It is not enough to blindly follow rules. It's not enough to be ill-informed. It's not enough to act out of fear. A vocational calling demands so much more. Teachers are guardians whose role it is to protect and advocate for those in their care. Those are the true victims of this crisis. It won't be enough to fall back on the Nuremberg defense and say, "We were just following orders." The Machiavellian mandates imposed by the powers that be, stifling life as we know it on the pretext of the end justifies the means, are already being challenged in courts across the world. The truth will out. We have all been sold a false bill of goods for the greater good. I firmly believe that what is happening to our children in Canadian schools and our loved ones in care homes as a result of the measures in place is the worst abuse ever perpetrated on innocence. Rocco Galati. Rocco Galati, a constitutional lawyer here in Canada, has addressed the question of masking children in his challenge to the Superior Court. Consider the fact that 70% of all language isn't actually even spoken or written. In essence, Galati states, meaningful connection is gauged from intuition and perception, body language, most of it facial language. If the masking of children continues in schools, there is no question that we will see an exponential rise in developmental handicaps in human language. Children will not understand how to perceive affection, a joke, sarcasm, the entire range of human emotion. When facial expression is removed, over 2/3 of language is gagged. I know this from interactions with my mother, who has additional challenges with communication after a global aphasic stroke left her unable to talk. Interactive and intuitive body language, most of which is facial, is suppressed when masks are worn. Masks become an instrument of dehumanization. We are stunting human language, blocking human communication and connection. I watched a mother in our local clinic trying to soothe her crying baby. The agony of both was palpable and heartbreaking. She turned to me in tears. It was everything that I could do not to intervene. I ended up leaving the clinic and I missed my appointment. Face-to-face engagement is how we relate to other people. To truly learn, we have to live, laugh and love. Without the latter, learning is lost. In the words of probably one of the world's greatest teachers that ever lived, Albert Einstein, I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn. In a previous speech, I referenced the Toronto Children's Hospital for Sick Kids, who wrote an excellent document for back-to-school guidelines. A new document was released July 29th, which has a whole host of other contributors in addition to Toronto Hospital for Sick Kids. Sadly, there is now a slant towards endorsing the restrictions, but it does go into great detail about the number of issues, many of which Ilea has already mentioned, particularly with regard to masking, where the experts of this report could not agree, and scientific evaluation of the efficacy of masks is sorely lacking. There is also great information on children who, for any number of reasons, should be exempt. It is 34 pages and well worth reading. We know that both the initial response to COVID-19 and ongoing restrictions are being questioned behind closed doors in the political, healthcare, education and legal arenas. David and I are hearing it daily. Many are speaking out. I ask all professionals to make sure you're on the right side of history. Voice your concerns. Open and honest debate is what we all deserve. And to the public, when the rules don't make sense, you have a right to ask questions and to have answers that do make sense. Ilea's speech was really wonderful. She touched on all of the things that matter to our children and to parents in Alberta. But I've been asked another question from parents. What do we do to support our children in school? As an ex-teacher, parent, and now grandparent, trust me, you have more power to create change than you imagine. Firstly, Dina Hinshaw's orders are being widely interpreted, first by the school boards, then by the schools, and then by the teachers. It's almost like a game of Chinese whispers. The result is that there's no consistency or confidence for anyone, especially the students. My good advice is get together with a group of parents and look hard at the orders. Then see how the schools are deviating from those orders. Call the schools out at every turn. At drop-off and pick-up, take the time to talk to other parents. Share your concerns. You would be amazed how many parents are actually supportive of your opinion, but too afraid just to speak out. Connect and share contact details with like-minded families. Whenever you have an opportunity, go into the school. Meet your child's teacher in person if possible. Sign up for volunteer positions like lunch supervision so you can see what's actually happening in the schools. Join parent councils where your voice will actually make a difference. And probably the most important, talk to your child every day about how they feel. There has never been a more important time to be engaged in your child's life outside of the home. Remember, you're your child's advocate, their staunchest ally. Don't hesitate if you have any concerns about their physical or emotional well-being. Question everything that doesn't make sense. And as Ilea and Josh both pointed out, model by example. Where you go fearlessly, your child will follow.